Welcome everyone. I'm Monique and this is the True Worth podcast. I am really excited tonight to have with me my guest Sally Porteous from Red Lanyard. Welcome, Sally.
Thanks, Monique. Thanks for having me as your guest.
Oh, look, fantastic to have you here. And tonight we're going to talk about the true worth of events. And I think, as we know, over the last few years, it has been a really tough time for everyone in the events sector. And we've all really missed those amazing experiences that we have at events. So I think it's going to be fascinating to talk to Sally around her experience with that and why events are so important to her. Now, I've known Sally for a long time now, more than 10 years, definitely more than 10 years. I think we first met back in the Fostering Executive Women program, which is an alumni program of the QT Business School, which we are both alumni of. So yes, we've known each other for a long time, and Sally has helped me produce quite a few events over the years, and so that's been fantastic. And she's always amazing at making that all come together. So I'm really excited to talk with her tonight. So just to introduce Sally, she has unwittingly and unknowingly been involved in the planning and coordinating of events since she was a teenager, coordinating local fairs, school fetes, real estate roadshows, sales conferences, and community engagement activities. But it wasn't until Sally was well through the first act of her career journey that she realised that the activity she had always managed to incorporate into every job was actually a career she could pursue. So in 2011, Sally embarked on a journey of curiosity to see if this thing people called event management was indeed something that could hold her attention for Act 2 of her career. Volunteering for a year, then securing community festival production gigs, Sally discovered that this was in fact something she could do forever and had in fact already been doing it most of her life. Sally is a passionate advocate for creating remarkable audience experiences that are worth remarking on. And she has created 3 pillars of support for her event community. Red Lanyard is the production company, supporting people and organisations to create their best work. Event Planners Workshop is creating space for people to learn, play and test their work. And the Event Managers Network encourages connection, collaboration, belonging and support. Still a work in progress, Sally continues to create meaningful event experiences, give others the confidence to do the same, and connect a vibrant community to make magic in the world. That sounds wonderful, Sally, making magic in the world. I love that idea. And definitely that's been my experience of working with you over the years. I think we all want our events to be magic experience, don't we?
We do.
Yeah. What do you think contributes to making that magic?
When people really focus on what it is that they want to create for their audience, I think.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
If people can resist the temptation to get bogged down in the logistics and keep their audience front and centre, they will create something amazing.
Yeah, excellent. And how has COVID impacted on that? How do you think that it has changed the way we engage with events, or what our experience is with events, since this COVID era?
Well, I think to give kudos to local councils first and foremost, and state and federal government who kept doing events. They kept showing up. They kept putting events on for the community, and they kept trying, even though it could be shut down at a moment's notice. I think it was really amazing that the local councils particularly kept putting on their community festival. So that was really exciting. And it gave the community and people confidence that they could still book. They still needed to book for events, even though, it's not that hard if it gets cancelled or postponed. So it built a lot of trust. It took away a lot of the fear, I think. As things have gone on and on and on, though, I think people sometimes aren't sure what to do.
Yeah.
So we want to go to things, and probably 6 months ago we were booking them. We were booking tickets with the expectation that COVID would come and go and we'd be able to go to our event. now with the various flus and different things around, people are holding out. They're still booking tickets, but they're waiting a lot longer.
Yeah.
What that means, though, is the rest of the industry isn't really accommodating or catching up with that. So as planners, we still have to pay deposits in the same timeline. We still have to sign contracts with the same timelines, give final numbers with the same timelines when people aren't actually booking, you know, even 6 weeks in advance, which they might have done once before. They're booking a week in advance. So that probably for me is what's been the biggest change. People aren't sure what to do, so they're booking a lot later to come to things.
Yeah, so they'll leave it until quite near the event time before they make a commitment to come.
Yes, even if you offer, you know, 100% refund guarantee.
Yes.
I think the start of COVID put a lot of fear in people that, you know, they didn't get those refunds, but I can assure everyone that the refunds are done like that.
Yes.
I've experienced it myself, and everyone's doing the right thing, which is great.
Yeah. So it's really it's introduced a lot of uncertainty, hasn't it? You know, from what you're saying there, is that people then afraid, what if it gets cancelled, or what if the event doesn't get cancelled but I get COVID and then I can't go? You know, so there are all these sort of complexities to it, because it's not just a simple thing of, yes, I really love to go to that and I'm available and, you know, I'll book a ticket. So yes, there's a lot more complexity and so much uncertainty. So do you think there's a bit of a temptation then to just say, well, I'm going to stay home and watch Netflix, or I'm going to have my make my event online instead? So do you think that people have come to undervalue a bit that meeting face to face in a live environment?
On the surface, yes, they do need to keep being reminded. So as event planners, we have to keep reminding people what it's like to go to the concert versus put the CD in the CD player, or turn on the MP3 player, or play that song in your phone. I really encourage people to try and just remember what it feels like to experience that collective energy. And that's what we get at an in-person event, as you know. And you just can't replicate that online. You just can't. No magic will create that space, no matter what the experts are telling you.
Yeah, for sure. It's something different altogether, isn't it? So collective energy, I think that's a nice way to say it, or that gives that idea that actually when you put, you know, a few hundred heartbeats together in one space, it's a different experience, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. And even if, you know, I've been to concerts, for example, where I've driven to the concert. The Cat Empire is a great example of this. I drove to the concert down the coast, so I couldn't drink a drop because I had to drive home. I'd never seen this band before. I only knew one song that was really popular, but they had this really amazing energy. When I left that concert, I seriously felt like, and not that I've taken drugs, but I thought, wow, this must be what people feel like, you know, when they've taken drugs. I was on this high all the way home, and it was because their music was that kind of music where everyone in the room jumps, you know, and there's just this, everyone's moving in unison, and it was quite incredible. And that to me is like, that's the nth degree of what you get when you gather people together. But it's like having dinner alone versus having dinner with 6 friends. You know, we all tried to do the Friday night wine catch up during COVID.
Yes.
And we tried really hard, but it just didn't cut it, did it?
Not quite the same, is it?
No.
I mean, it was good when there was no alternative, but you know, it's not the same as really being there in the same room and having that shared experience. So when businesses are thinking about this then, and what they should be doing with their events in the light of all this uncertainty, from your perspective, what's the value that they can get from a well-produced event?
They get to take the activity that they want to share. So when you say a well-produced event, to me, that's an event where the person who is delivering the content, the person that wants to create the transformational experience for the people that are coming into the room, that person has delegated the planning tasks either to somebody else, or they did them 6 months ago and it's all done and dusted and finished and they don't ever have to worry about it. When they walk in the room, they really need to be attentive to the audience that came there. And more so now, because people have taken a risk to come. They've taken a huge risk to get out of their house and come to your event. The worst thing that can happen is when you show up and the person who's got the event on is fiddling with AV or tech, or, you know, they're on stage mucking around with something, and you sort of walk in and think, well, what am I supposed to do? Where do I go? I don't know anybody here, or you may know some people, but you really don't want to leave your audience to their own devices. And most importantly now, when they have taken that risk, they've invested money, they've invested time and energy, and said, all right, we trust you. We're going to show up face to face. And the value that the organisation or the person will get from that is an enormous amount of loyalty, because they too have taken a risk and said, hey, I'm putting myself on the line financially. I'm going to stand up and share with you. And for women, that's really, really hard to do. A lot of women who are doing, you know, transformational work, it's not easy to stand up. Like, you've done amazing events. I'm always in awe of you standing up and going, all right, I've got this great activity and I'm going to bring people together to do it. And so when someone does that, I think those that come along to it get taken on that energetic journey with you. So that's why I think people should do it. Most importantly now. Yeah,
for sure. And I think it's true what you say, when something is not well produced, where it's hasn't been thoroughly planned, and when, as you say, the guest speaker or the person hosting the event is fiddling around with the technology or what have you, that really you lose the magic, don't you? Like, no one wants to see behind the curtain. You, as an audience member, you want to be you want to be greeted, you want to be guided, you want it to all, that the experience starts before you arrive, and that it needs to be throughout that entire time that you're there.
I think too, though, something people often forget, and you and I experienced this not so long ago, is remembering to take people on the journey. You've got to show them the journey. You can't they don't just show up and suddenly they know what to do. They know where to go. You have to be free enough, have your time free enough to be able to notice if somebody isn't doing what you wanted them to do, or engaging in the activity you were hoping to engage them in. You can't be distracted by other things and leave people to their own devices. You want to take them through your story.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, you know, from what you've said there, there's a lot of value to be gained by taking that risk, but by ensuring that when you're going to take the risk and the people coming are also taking a risk, that you put the effort in to make sure that it really is done well.
Yes, absolutely.
It needs to be worth going out for, doesn't it? Like, it needs to be, you know, these experience these days. Well, I've got to put on clothes and shoes and, you know, get dressed.
That's right. Take my tracksuit pants off.
So it better be worth it. That's right. So Sally, like, over your years and the experience, you know, in the events industry, and you must have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Are there times when you've been underestimated, or where your role as the person, you know, planning what is often in the background behind the scenes, do you feel that you've been underestimated in that role sometimes?
Often. And here's the thing, it's because it's one of those activities that the value often doesn't rise to the top until it's over. So it's common to be underestimated throughout the whole process, and then be flooded with gratitude and compliments after the event. Which, you know, that can be one of the reasons why we engage in such activity. But I've had times where the process has been underestimated. I had a bit of a tragedy on one particular event, and I knew this was possibly going to happen. And so I actually lined up a friend to produce this event on the day for me, because I thought this thing that happened was going to happen. I just had a gut feeling about it. So I lined up my friend and said, look, I think this is going to happen. I've done all the paperwork. All you have to do on the day is just fix anything that might break. And nothing broke on the day. It was a great day. She did a really good job. And when it came to the debrief with the client, they didn't want to pay for that day. They said, well, she didn't do anything. Why do we have to pay for that day?
Yeah.
And I said, well, she didn't do anything because it
was also well planned and nothing went wrong.
We don't want to be doing anything on the day. Thank you.
Yes.
But even after the fact, that they really underestimated the value of being well planned.
Yes. And in fact, of having that person there who just makes sure that everything goes smoothly. And it's all the little things that you don't necessarily notice they're doing that in fact are the difference between somebody having a magic experience and, leaving feeling like it wasn't really worth it.
And the thing is, often they'll never know that. They won't know that someone had a bad experience because the person's not going to tell them. Or the person will never realise what a great experience they could have had.
Yes.
They'll never know what an amazing idea the person putting that event on actually wanted for them, but they just never got it.
Yeah. So then, given that, what are some of the key factors that you think that businesses or people who are organising their corporate events need to consider, to make sure that they do have the best experience possible?
Well, I've got three key things, I think. Understanding the risk of getting it wrong. So if you do delegate the task of the planning to someone in your organisation who it's not their normal job, or you don't know if they have the skills to do it, and there are a specific set of skills that come into play with event planning, the risk of getting it wrong is it could be a PR nightmare. It could be serious injury to someone. It could be 5 people showing up to something that you wanted 100 people to show up to, or just a lackluster experience. For example, when the microphones don't work properly, or someone hasn't tested the AV and nobody's done a sound check or run through anything because nobody knew that they had to do that. An example is recently I observed an event planning process going on around me, and I was asked to I've got to be careful how I say this. I was asked to do a task which essentially meant that on stage names would be called out and things would be handed out. That makes any sense?
Yep.
And there was no check. There was no final check. And I had to sort of say, is there a list? Would you like me to just make sure that? And they went, oh, yes, that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of things that I sort of think, wow, what would happen if you didn't do that? And the person you are meant to hand something to, you don't have that thing.
Yeah.
Like that could be really quite devastating.
Order or something.
Yeah. The other thing to think about is the time and resources it takes. I think that is seriously underestimated all of the time. People don't realise when you send one email to someone to say, oh, I'd like to get a quote to book your venue, for example, you're talking about probably 30 to 50 emails that are going to go back and forth just to get a quote. Like that's not even booking the venue. And if you think there's 3 to 5 minutes in every email, now if that's not that person's job, that's time they're not doing their other job that they're meant to be doing. And I think that's the thing that I find most astonishing. And if we're talking about EAs and PAs in organisations, they will just do it. So the third thing is the unidentified stress. And I can tell you, I can email people on a weekend, and I can email, marketing coordinators and assistants and EAs, etc., and they will answer me. They will answer me on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I don't need the answer.
No.
So it's that unidentified stress that people put themselves under when they're trying to do their own job as well as deliver this for you, because there's no second chance with an event.
No.
Like when it's deliverable, it's deliverable.
Yes.
So when you're in the room and it's all happening, you can't go back and go, oh, I forgot to do that. You've just got to find a way through it. And that can be highly stressful for people who aren't built to make quick decisions, to be resourceful, resilient. If that's not your makeup, if you're someone that needs time to make decisions, needs to be able to think things through and plot things out, the stress levels on those people are astronomical. So I think that's probably the three things: the risk of getting it wrong, the time and resources it actually takes to do it, and understand the unidentified stress of the people that are being tasked with these activities.
Yeah, excellent. And so these are some of the things that, are part of that whole big picture, and it takes a lot, doesn't it? There's so many moving parts, and as you say, you've got one chance to get it right on the day, and so everything's really got to be ready to go. So given your experience, Sally, I know that one of the things you do is to provide training for event managers, or some of the people, as you say, like it might be an EA or a PA who is given the task of organising an event. So can you tell us a bit about some of that training you provide?
I can, yes. So ideally, it's taking people through a process. So I have a 12-step process, essentially, that I go through in relation to the event planning. And that's looking at the design process first, having a look at what it is that we actually are trying to achieve here, who are we trying to achieve it for, and what objectives and KPIs do we need to build around that. So that's step one, is looking at the design. Step two is the marketing, and that can be the same for a dinner party, a boardroom lunch, a 3,000 person festival. You've got to find a way to attract people to come to this thing that you want to put on. So that's why I call it marketing. And there's a variety of different ways to do that. But if you don't actually tell people this is on, even if it is just a boardroom lunch, and if you don't do it in such a way, we talked about before the competing priorities people have now, and the fact that, do we really want to go out? We might just want to stay at home and choose the virtual option. So the marketing is actually, how do I encourage people to come to this? Then the next step we go through is the operations. So the actual delivery of the event, the execution of the event. And then there's administration. So all of the budgets, that kind of thing all around it. And then risk and compliance as well. And risk and compliance is one of those things that people often forget about. And it can be a small, short activity that just runs through a quick risk assessment, make sure that you have the right insurances that you need to have, or other legal or compliance things that you may not realise that you have to have in place. And so it's essentially, there's 4 elements there, and there's 3 steps or 3 phases in each of those. So it's a 12-step program.
Right. Excellent. But it sounds like it's very comprehensive, and it covers all of the key things that someone would need to know. Let's say they've never, organised an event before, or this has been thrown on them by their boss and they don't quite know what to do. Or like you say, perhaps they've, organised a few things before, but they haven't thought about some of those things like their legal compliance, or getting their liquor license, or their insurance, or whatever it might be. That might be something they haven't come across before. So sounds like that provides a good checklist as well for them to make sure that
it does. And look, one of the biggest takeaways I often find when working with people in that corporate environment is how to read a venue contract. A lot of people don't read the contract, or they don't understand the contract, and the pricing structures that venues can put together can be highly complex. And I've had clients not know that they've signed a contract worth $150,000. No, it's only $45 a head. No,
Yeah.
it's
Plus all
$150,000.
sorts of other things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's those kind of things I think that people don't pay attention to, but there's so many tiny things, and often we know the best venues to go to as well.
Sure. And you've had the experience of working with certain venues before and certain suppliers, and so you know who's reliable and you know who does a great job and who's good to work with.
Yeah, and who has what already
Mm.
in the space? You know, does the venue already have AV included, or is it extra, and all of those kinds of things. So there's the training element, which is the nitty gritty. That's for people that really, they need to know how to put the event on, and they need the steps involved, but they don't have the time or desire to go to TAFE or do a degree or anything like that. It's just something that they have to do in their job. They might do it once a year, and they need a procedure.
Yes.
So that's for that. There's also the coaching and the mentoring as well, though. So coaching is if you've done events before and you're doing them okay, but you just like a little bit more structure around it. It's getting a bit bigger now. It's getting a bit more complex now. The risks are a bit higher. It's a bit more high profile, and you just sort of want someone in your back corner that you can come on the journey with you and just sort of hold your hand and make sure that you're doing things as efficiently and effectively as possible. And then last but not least is the mentoring. And that's when you just need to call someone and say, hey, I don't know what to do here, or this situation's changed, or, you know, the venue's changed the contract on me. What are my options? And so that's that bit more of a hands-off process. And I think it's just really helpful. Well, I've found anyway, the people that I've worked with, it gives people confidence. So the people who are producing the events, it gives them the confidence to produce the event. They know what needs to be communicated to the people who own the event, and the people who own the event can actually spend time on the content and the program and what it is that they want to deliver. And that's what I care about. That's my whole goal is how can I make this easier, better, more fun, less stressful. So when you're all in the room with the audience is feeling your excitement and your anticipation for what greatness is to come, not the opposite, which is often the case of your stress and anxiety and fear and, oh my God, what if this goes wrong? So that's always my goal. That's what I hope to give people.
Yeah, definitely. But what it really is taking care of all those things so that, as you say, the person who's delivering the event, or who is the host or the owner of the event, can in fact spend their time engaging with their audience and, you know, communicating with the people that they've brought to this and make that a magic experience for them.
And you know where that came from, Monique? I had a wonderful experience for about 4 years. Much later in life, I learnt that I could do a job as a promoter, as a music promoter. And I used to take bands on the road. Had no idea this was a job. I probably wouldn't be alive today if I'd have learnt it was a job when I was 15. But I got to do this for about 4 years. And one of my favourite gigs was Human Nature. I got to take them on the road for 2 years. And they are always in the back of my mind because they are the hardest working band you will ever meet. And they turn up in the morning of their show and they do a rehearsal. They rehearse until lunchtime. They take a lunch break. They rehearse all afternoon, and then they do the show of a nighttime. And they do that every single day on tour. But they employ the best sound engineers, the best lighting technicians, the best tour managers. Everyone around them are the best at what they do because they do nothing but focus on their show. That's all they do. And that's why they're, like, if you've ever seen a Human Nature show, the 4 of them together, they're precision. They're absolutely perfect. And that's what I say to people I really want for them. I want them to be the rock star. I really want everyone to just leave everything to everybody else. Just grab professionals to do all of that, because if I can encourage people to really dig deep into the content they want to deliver, that's the best thing for the audience. That's the best thing. But anyway, that's where that comes from.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I think you've talked a lot about a lot of background scenes work, Sally. Like, and as you say, like that, you know, human nature might be the ones up on the stage, but there's so much that goes into, you know, producing an event like that or enabling them to be able to just do their job and sing.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of creativity in what you do, and you know, in even just coming up with the ideas for the events, and you know, throughout that whole process, so much that you need to bring to it. And I know we, you know, we talked about this and we worked on this a bit as part of the True Worth Discovery program about how we nurture our creativity and how that helps us to bring something unique to every experience. And so I'd love to hear from you. How do you go about nurturing your creativity in your daily life?
Well, I'm always learning something, and I'm always learning from great people, i.e. you. So I am blessed to always have something like that going on. So I've been super grateful, and that's increased exponentially since COVID, because so many people have decided to take what they know and share it with the world. So that's probably one of the great things that's come out of COVID. But I just create things. I make things all the time. I don't consider myself an artist, but I do hope that one day I'll be able to write something. I'd like to be a playwright when I'm old and grey and sitting on my couch. I'd love to I'd love to write plays. But I think fostering creativity is just doing. You've just got to get up and do. You've got to try. I did learn. I went again. I'm living life backwards, so I went to university very late, and I did learn there to dig deeper into different subject matter, and I find that really interesting, because to me it seems the opposite of creativity. Creativity to me has always been chasing after the next shiny object, but digging deep into a subject, which is what I did, 10 years ago. I'm in lots of different groups. I have varying different groups where I can talk about the things that I do, but I just keep working. I just keep creating things, really.
Yeah.
I keep chasing different clients. People ask me all the time what kind of events I do. I don't focus on particular types of events. I focus on particular types of people.
Yes. Yeah.
And I always want to work with people that are doing creative, innovative things. And that just, expands my mind exponentially.
And I think it's true what you say, that actually, if you want to be creative, you just need to create. Isn't that it? So, I mean, you can think about being creative, but actually to just, create something, whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be, a Mona Lisa hanging in the Louvre.
No.
It can be.
And it doesn't have to be public either.
No, not at all.
I write every day. And sometimes it's just like diary writing. Sometimes I'll write a story, like I'll write myself into a story, and that's always a bit of fun. But I don't publish those. Nobody else sees those except me.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. No one else needs to see it. It's still a way that you're expressing yourself, as part of what you do every day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. So what do you think's been the greatest satisfaction from your professional career, Sally? It's been varied and lots of fun, and you've done lots of things over the years. So what brings you that satisfaction?
Yeah. Right now, as I get older and older, like I said, it's the discipline of studying something a little bit further before I move on to the next thing. So I think the journey of discovering that I actually had a saleable skill. I never thought I was a jack of all trades. I used to call myself. I was just an administrator. I really didn't, people would say, what do you do? And, I'd say, oh, I work in an office. Like I didn't actually do anything that had a title. So discovering this and realizing that this was a thing that people did, and it's something I could say I found that really interesting. And even to today, I still find it a bit hard to name what I do. But that's probably been the most exciting part of this, discovering I had a saleable skill, and then the discipline that the study taught me, and going deeper into different subject matter. And now I do things like I used to read probably the first 30 pages of any book before I'd run off with ideas. I'd start writing ideas on my notepad over here, and before I knew it, I was on a project, and that's it, the book's finished. Now I read for 20 minutes and write for 20 minutes until I finish the book every day.
Right, yeah.
And so I read it first, and I don't allow myself to make any notes as I read it, because I want to retain it. Because I found if I was reading and writing at the same time, I just didn't retain anything.
But you lose the flow of it, don't you, as well, when you do that? I mean, it's not,
So
great. So you've created a process around it, or you've instilled a discipline for yourself in how you do that.
Indeed, that's exactly what I did. So just keeping working, really. Keep trying to show up. That's not easy. Particularly the last couple of years, I think has been a challenge. And it's I'll be honest, it's been hard to find satisfaction in the last 2 years, because we haven't actually been able to deliver what we planned. And anyone that does this does it because we like to see the end result of something.
Sure.
You know, it's often short term. We like short term things, and we see results pretty much straight away. And 2020, I had 25 events booked, and I was able to execute 8. And so there was satisfaction in that 8 for sure.
Yeah. And Sally, also the Commonwealth Games is just wrapping up in Birmingham this week, and I know that you were involved in the Commonwealth Games when they were here on the Gold Coast in 2018. Can you tell us a bit about that, or what you learned from that experience?
What I learned from that experience about myself was I have incredible determination when there's no other option. I can tell you, you see, I've got a photo on my website. There's a picture of me with all the flags. So you have to put all the flags of the countries up. I can tell you that is the hardest job. The hardest job is stringing those hooking the flags on, getting the rope right, and getting it up on that flagpole ready for opening day was the hardest thing I had to do there. And you can't not do it.
No. Imagine if you were from that country and you up and your flag wasn't there.
Sorry, I broke your flag while I was putting it up. So there's, retrospectively, there's an enormous amount of pressure. But I think you're moving so fast. Medal ceremonies. Doing medal ceremonies and finding, the funniest thing was finding the right people, because there's a set of rules and regulations around who is allowed to present a medal.
Right.
And at the beginning of the games, they must be this level of person from this country, et cetera, dressed in this way, and they have to look at all this kind of thing. And of course, by the end of the 10 days, because you can't find it, there's not a lot I can say that won't get me in trouble. But I can tell you, we have incredible people here in Australia that create amazing things, and that's what people don't see. People don't see that I was put on that event with 9 weeks to go. The space that I was in, the first person put on that location was November the year prior. So I was put on in end of February. The games were in April. I was put on at the end of February. The first person was put on November the year before, and nothing was on the site. The site had not been built at all. No procedures, nothing had been done. To run all of those events across 10 days. And so the ability of the people that we have here in Australia who can pull that kind of thing off. But, amazingly, I was exposed to this whole world of people who put these things on around the world. And it's a whole community that if I wanted to, I can jump on a Facebook group, and I could be like, half of these people are in the UK now, delivering it there, and they'll go to the next one and the next one. And I had no idea that occurred. So that was really cool to meet all those.
And I'm sure they're already planning the next one, just as we are here now in Brisbane, already planning for 2032, although it's 10 years out. And in fact, that's been going on already for some years, before now. So it's a really long lead time for something that, you know, ultimately is quite short, but it has to all happen and it has to all be done right.
Yeah. I think too that the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games was a great example of people solving problems on the fly, because there's so many things you can't anticipate when it's just humans involved, because essentially that's what it is. It's just gathering humans and getting humans to do one thing or the other, either be a visitor or a participant, an athlete. You know, one of the funniest things though, one of the funniest things that would happen was I helped with the opening ceremony, and I was in the royal box, which was so exciting. So I'm getting to meet all of these incredible dignitaries from around the world. But the signs, they put the names on so I had a seating chart, and it's amazing. You think these are so professionally organized, but I've got a seating chart that's a piece of paper with boxes drawn on it, hand drawn on it, with the names of the people, you know, Charles, Camilla.
Yes.
I don't show anybody this piece of paper. And the names on the seats were these little tiny stickers that someone had stuck on the back of the seat. So I'm trying to take Prince Charles to his seat.
Yeah.
And I've got this terrible bit of paper and these horrible stickers. And if you remember, this massive storm hit. Do you remember the storm?
I don't remember, but I'm sure it would be a frequent occurrence on the Gold.
Well, the show's due to start at 8 p.m. and at 8 p.m. it bucketed. It literally, and the royal box was outside. Anyway, it was just one of those things that was just disaster after disaster to disaster. But no one would have known. No one would have seen it.
No. And it all comes together in the end. Yeah.
It comes together because the world is full of people that want to create great things. They want to do a really good job. And that's what I love about it. Like there's not one single person I ever come across that is at an event that's sitting in the corner going, that's not my job.
No.
Everybody
wants to be part of making it happen and making it fantastic.
And I think that's why it's cool. That's why it's fun. Because everybody will pick up a shovel and dig a hole if they need to.
Yeah, fantastic. So given all this experience that you've had, Sally, I'm sure you've got, you know, so many stories, and many of which you, as you say, can't tell. But I'm sure
that's the only thing with the online world, is doing my workshops virtually. I actually can't tell a lot of these stories because I don't want anyone to share them, you know, with the wider world.
No, but that's all right. But you've learned a lot from all of this. So given all of that, what are some of the things that you would love experienced practitioners to know when they're coming in and you know, taking on the responsibility like you have of making sure that these events, you know, all run smoothly? What's some of the things that you would love them to know?
I think I would love them to know that they can make a difference. You know, they can, even a half-hour event, you know, just something that is a short period of time, done well, executed well, and you know, if you can focus on what it is that you want to share with the people that you want to gather, that's what you want to give to somebody else, right? That's what you want to create for other people in the room. So as I said before, even if you can't engage someone to do it for you, that's fine. Just make them two separate jobs though. Don't try and be planning the event whilst creating your content, whilst talking to people about trying to get them to come, or sponsors on board, all of those kinds of things. And I think that's what happens. People jump in the middle, they start in the middle, and instantaneously they're chasing their tail. So nothing actually gets done in any particular order. And if you do it in an order, everything builds on itself. If that makes sense. You only make this one decision once. You don't have to make it.
Move on to the next step.
Yeah. And then if, you know, 4 steps down the track, that decision you made 3 days ago informs the next decision, etc. So I would like to see people separate.
Yes.
If you're going to produce your own work, which I highly encourage people to do, get a coach, get a mentor, even just someone to help you stay on track, and say to that person, look, these are two separate jobs I'm doing here. One is creating the content and an experience for people. The other is the logistics of event planning.
Yes.
Can you help me keep those separated?
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I think there's so many ways, obviously that you can support people, whatever their role might be, in that, in terms of your training, your coaching, your mentoring, and the event production that you also do. So that's fantastic. So Sally, this is the True Worth podcast, and I know that you were. It was fantastic to have you involved in our True Worth Discovery program. And it was fantastic to see your journey through that. So I want to ask you finally, before we finish up tonight, how do you embrace your own true worth?
Well, I can tell you, Monique, that I didn't embrace it at all, really, before doing your program. So that was an amazing catalyst for how I show up now. And it's coming up every single day. I've had interesting experiences where I'm working on a really important event at the moment with somebody else. And in the past, I would have let them lead. I would have, and not through any reason that I didn't feel worthy or feel important. I always want to put other people on stage. And that's something I've kind of realized, is I've always been the support worker. I've always been the person that supported everybody else. But you can be a support worker and lead at the same time. And so what I've been practicing is, instead of pushing my chair back and saying, I'll let the expert talk because I'm not an expert, going, actually, I am the expert here. And so I let them talk, but then go, oh, and by the way, I think this, I think this, I think this.
Yeah.
And I've really noticed, I don't and ah. I don't, how ironic. I don't and ah. I don't, I speak with conviction. Because, and I'm not afraid to give my opinion now, because you reminded me they employed the expert for a reason.
Yes, absolutely.
You are the expert. They chose you to do this. And so that is in my head every time I want to go subordinate, slide back. No, I'm doing them a disservice by doing that. I'm doing them, they're wasting their money if that's what I'm going to do. And so that has been, mind-blowing. But so I now know and accept my value, and I no longer let myself down. I step up and I take the risk, because that's what I think was happening before. Was I was scared's not the right word, but I was reluctant to speak up in case I got it wrong, and then I'd feel stupid and I'd be embarrassed. Whereas now I'm like, well, even if I'm wrong, I'm willing to have someone say to me, I don't agree with you. And my response is, that's interesting. Tell me why. So.
Fantastic. That's awesome, Sally.
It's been amazing, Monique. I can't ramble on about it enough, really.
No, and I can really hear, in you saying that you've that you really are embracing that true worth from your own perspective, and you're saying, hey, I can do this, which, as everyone listening in right now, they know that already, having listened to you for the past 40 minutes, hearing all about your experience and your expertise in events. So thank you so much, Sally, for being with us here tonight. It's been fantastic, wonderful to chat with you, and always, always great to catch up with you. So thank you so much. Thank you for helping us all learn a bit more about the true worth of events, and thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Dr. Monique Beadles, and if this conversation has sparked your interest, I'd love to invite you to join us in the True Worth community. It's a place to learn and to share ideas, insights and inspiration. You can find us at trueworth.mn.co.